I just had like no idea what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful that it did. But what I value when I think about this time is not what it gave to me in my career, but the endless memories.
Recently, Lady Gaga performed the show in Rio. I didn't watch the whole thing. I'm not a big fan of her music, but I appreciate a lot her genius. She's an astonishing artist who's accomplished so much throughout the years. So even though I don't know much about her career, and even less about her as a person, I do have a lot of respect for her. Yet, seeing such a massive crowd and all of them vibing so intensely made me curious. So I searched for some interviews with her. You see, I love hearing other artists talk about their lives and careers. Because when it comes to artists such as Gaga, it's very difficult for me to really grasp her appeal if I'm not into the genre of music she makes in the first place. But beyond an artist, I'm a person, and the same applies for everybody else. Therefore, there are some things that resonate better with me when I hear or read what the person says away from the stage, when they are in casual, unfiltered conversations. While listening to her in an Apple Music interview, at the same time I was drawing her portrait, I came to a sensitive conclusion I would have probably forever missed if I hadn't get inspired by that insanely crowded show on the Saturday. There is profound, unspoken pain in being larger than life. It is difficult to us who have little to no audience to think it's possible to suffer from success. It's not such an outlandish idea, I'm pretty sure you've heard of it before, but it isn't as discussed, considering it's such a recurring struggle. Because the truth is, this idea doesn't sell. One of the caveats of being an artist and being a big artist is that you are attached to this idea of being special, untouchable. And you might even oppose to that. You might be extremely verbal about that not being the case. But when your art becomes larger than you, larger than life, you can't help but lose the real, warm and human connection you had with people when you first started growing in this business. Recently, I was thinking about how Markiplier has changed over the years. Although his personality and the way he interacts with people is mostly the same, there's something about the way he presents himself that speaks volumes about his relationship with success. There's this great video, Markiplier is Broken by Golfcart, shout out to him, and it helped me pay attention to Mark not from the lenses of an old-time viewer, but as a sympathetic human being.
I've gotten to this point in my life and the success on this channel by being so unbelievably sure of what I needed to do. It was really obvious, make videos, try to help people, raise money for charity, do what I can to better the world. I don't know, is it wrong of me to say it doesn't feel like enough?
You see, from down here, from the first steps of the staircase, it does feel that these people have impersonated a very potent and distant persona, that they are now immune to their ghosts because they are so empowered now. We think they have enough money, opportunities and experiences to solve all the problems we can possibly imagine. But what happens when you change so drastically? When success reshapes you so hard and pushes you to such a different life? The world around you changes too. People change about you, and you change about people. And it must be so isolating, not being able to pinpoint to anyone how it really feels. We become so lost, envying or feeling indifferent to people who have succeeded way more than we have, that we diminish their problems. Because it feels like the type of life they lead would solve every and each problem we have, and we're not wrong, it probably would. But if we had the type of life they have, we would have different types of problems to deal with, and these would feel just as heavy. Because we think it's all about influence and power or money, but it ain't about that. Before we discuss what it is even about though, I just wanted to take a moment to say, if you're enjoying this content and would like to support my work, please consider liking this video, and if you feel like the channel might be entertaining or helpful to you, subscribe, and I'll make sure to keep making content like this. I'm also open to commissions, freelance jobs, and personal art tutoring sessions, so feel free to contact me by email or on Instagram and Twitter. Links are in the video description. Thank you. Now, as I was saying, it ain't about that. I don't know if you are familiar with Buddhist philosophy, but we Buddhists believe that suffering stems from attachment. And if you try to apply that to all sorts of things in your life, you'll see that it is a very valid conception. The things about success and having your craft, art, business, whatever it is, becoming larger than you is, you lose access to something very basic that we have and take as granted, which is feeling relatable and feeling like we can share the same problem as our peers is a different feeling, is a difficult feeling to detach from, because it grounds us in the reality we live in for years on end. Think about this for a second. What was the last time you felt like any of the big names you know feels somewhat relatable? Maybe their past feels relatable, the story they tell you might resonate with what you're getting through right now, but at the moment they seem unhappy or express dissatisfaction with life the way we do. It's always that weird feeling of, don't you have enough already? But as you might feel relatable and related to so many other people around yourself, people whose work or craft becomes bigger than them have very little room to share this. And deep down, we all know this is a real problem. If you became a much richer and famous person tomorrow, you wouldn't be able to act as you are acting right now. And I'm so sure most people who are central to your life now would treat you much differently. Some with hostility, some with resentment, but some really just with considerate distance. Not because they wouldn't love you anymore, but because your lifestyle would push them away. When something you do makes you larger than life, there is very little room in your own life for many things we take as granted, such as privacy, or reliability, or the ability to feel relatable, or trust, or a steady and predictable life, or yet the capacity to feel grounded. That's why that specific quote from Gaga in the interview hit me. There's something cruel about the emotions that revolve to success. It seems like the common feeling huge artists have when they win big is that there's so much to value in the experiences they had. It might be all about fame when you're new to this, maybe, but at some point, you realize the most expensive toy in the room is still just a toy. And that sometimes, your favorite one is that old toy that you used to play with when you were younger. And that's when the maturity to take back your life comes to play. That's when you understand you can become larger than yourself, when you realize you're larger than success. At the end of the day, we can't be known entirely by our peers. None of us walk around without masks. This abstract oneness that exists within you doesn't have the ability to be expressed in the real world. It doesn't matter how authentic you are, you express different sides of you to different people because of the different aspects of yourself that they embody. Everyone around you tells you something about yourself because the lenses through which you see them is explicitly telling you and the whole world what you believe about life. When one lives a life that impacts hundreds of thousands or even millions of people, there is this one side of them that will, more or less, be replicated countless times to them, being altered ever so slightly. Think about this. If there's 20 people around you that you influence on a daily basis, positive or negatively, there are 20 versions of you that you keep up with. But what if your audience is of millions? You got millions of versions of you, most of them very similar but ever so slightly different, just enough so it is personally tailored to the personality of each and one of your fans. And you might not even consciously think about it, but on some deep, unconscious level, that resonates with you. If one person talks shit about you, it definitely feels different from being cancelled by half of your fan base. There is very little room for error when you know everything you do and say will be scrutinized, and that you can't make everybody happy. You can't have a bad day and say something wrong. This is why becoming larger than yourself and then your success and taking time to live your life is a step that shows so much maturity. Because it might seem obvious at first that life must be lived, but some kinds of power have a way of blinding you from your right to live. And suddenly, it feels like your career demands from you much more than it actually does. Because for most of them, the survival mode that we are in have long ended. When you don't have to work to put food on your plate, when you're so rich that eating good doesn't even cost you anything anymore. And at that point, the paradoxically inhuman work ethic most of them put up on a daily basis for years and years is nothing but ego. Both theirs and of the ones surrounding them, of the people who depend on their success to keep up with more luxury than they will ever really need. And that's not necessarily good or bad, but it does take a toll on them all with time. And it does hurt them bad. That's why nothing makes me happier than hearing a successful artist say they'll take their time and live life. To me, this is a sign they have become larger than their success. And in a sense, that makes them relatable again. I don't really have a fancy way to end these videos, so I'd simply like to thank you all for taking your time to listen to me talking about this stuff. It really does mean the world to me. And hopefully I'll see you here again the next time. Until then, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this, so please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. And without further ado, thank you so much. Peace.